All right, our history motions. So we're gonna start with war. During the 100 Years' War, Joan of Arc, so do a big J, and King Charles VII led the French. So it's an F, and then you just kind of flick it out to the side. The French to defeat the English. And so for English, we just have our hands kind of folded on top of one another like this. For English, this is the sign we use for England in our timeline song. To defeat the English at the Siege of Orleans. So we'll do a big O and then a little point like their defeat at the Siege of Orleans. And then we have a creepy flea. Fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 in 3 Europeans. And we hold it again here. So let's do the motions with the music.
During the 100 Years' War, Joan of Arc and King Charles VII led the French to defeat the English at the Siege of Orleans. In the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 out of 3 Europeans. In the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 out of 3 Europeans. During the 100 Years' War, Joan of Arc and King Charles VII led the French to defeat the English at the Siege of Orleans. In the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 out of 3 Europeans. In the late 1340s, fleas on rats carried the plague which killed 1 out of 3 Europeans.
For geography this week, we have European cities. So if you have a map that shows Europe on it, now is a wonderful time to go get your map of Europe so that you can find these locations on the map in front of you too. Okay, so let's move through these together. The first thing I need to do is find England. So on your map, or you can point to the screen, let's point to England together. We're gonna point to it, it's right here. So, Ireland, England, France and Spain, Portugal, round again, Ireland, England, okay? And I have a little blue dot in England, and this is London, England. And you know who lives in London, England? The royal family. And sadly, the Queen of England has passed away. And so, in her honor, I have my horse because she loved horses. And so my little horsey is going to help me move through each of these cities today. So I'm just going to set him right up here until it's time for him to travel around these cities. So first we have London, England. And so you say it in your best English accent, very prim and proper. London, England, all right? And then we're going to take a quick swim right across the English Channel into France. So last week we learned European rivers. What is the name of the river in France? This one right here. The Seine River. And we have a city that sits right on the Seine River. This is Paris, France. So say Paris, France, and point to it on your map. And right below Paris is Orléans, France. And so you got to say it with your best French accent. Orléans, France. Now, you might think as Americans you'd say Orleans, like New Orleans, but that's not how you say it. You say Orléans. And so we have 2 cities in France. So here we have London, England, Paris, France, and Orléans, France. Down below, we're going to go all the way down France, across this mountain range, because see here we've got these triangles on our map tell us that these are mountains. Go down below that into Barcelona. So Barcelona is in this country here. And what is it called again? Spain. Barcelona, Spain. And then we're going to swim across this sea. What is the name of this sea again? We learned it before. It's the Mediterranean Sea. So from Barcelona, take a swim across the Mediterranean to this purple city named Rome. Rome, Italy. This country here is Italy. So we have London, England, Paris, France, Orléans, France, Barcelona, Spain, and Rome, Italy. So I want to ask you, do you remember the name of this little river right here? We learned it last week. It's our little river dog, Puppy Po. So in Italy, we have the Po River and Rome, the city of Rome. All right, now I have a little song I want to teach you, and I'm going to have my horse move from city to city. I'm going to use his nose to kind of point to each of them, okay? So we're going to go in a little different order than we did this last time. But we're going to sing London, England, Paris, France, Italy has Rome, Barcelona sits in Spain, Orléans, famous in France. So you kind of go down and around. All right, so let's go through them one more time all together. Where is Orléans, France? Right there, it's our green one. Where is Rome, Italy? It's our boot, it's right there, Rome, Italy. Where is London, England? Way up here, London, England. And Barcelona, France. Barcelona, Spain. Not Barcelona, France. Barcelona, Spain, all the way down here. And then Paris, France on the Seine River. Right up here, our red country. Great job. Okay, to go along with our geography this week, I found this atlas sticker book, and I wanted to just show you some famous landmarks that go with each of the cities we've learned this week, because geography is not just about a map. Geography is also about what is in these locations. What types of things can you find in these cities? What happened there? So to help you just make a memory and to a connection to these cities you've learned, I wanted to show you some of these. So we'll start in London, England. Now, London, England has many famous landmarks, but the one that this map shows is the Buckingham Palace. So I'll show you the sticker that goes here. Let me focus in on it. Okay, so you can see Buckingham Palace, and this is where the royal family lives. And, oh, I'm trying not to move so much. I'm sorry. You can see those little soldiers dressed in red and black with the big black funny hats on their head. Those are the King's Guards. And so when you see the King's Guards or you see Buckingham Palace, that's going to give you a clue that, okay, maybe we're in London, England. If you're watching a movie or reading a book where you see this, it may help you to know, okay, I think we're in England. I think we're in London. All right, so next, let's move down to Paris, France. Now, I don't have a sticker for this one, but you can see this gray tower here is the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. You've probably seen that one before. And then we're just going to move down, and I need to look to make sure I say this name of this valley right. The Loire Valley is not necessarily in Orléans, but Orléans is a city that the valley goes through, and this is a very famous lush valley in France. They have lots of vineyards. So this is what this map has on there. They have the Loire Valley marked on here, but we know that Orléans, I want to say Lorraine. Orléans is famous for lots more than just a vineyard runs through it, right? This city has so much history going all the way back to Charlemagne. It was an intellectual capital when he was the emperor. It's an important city during the 100 Years' War. This was where Joan of Arc, she rose up. She's known as the Maid of Orléans, and her troops delivered the city of Orléans from the English during the 100 Years' War. And so that victory that Joan of Arc had in Orléans is celebrated today. They have a holiday that they celebrate every year. So Orléans, while this map doesn't really mark, I'd put a picture of Joan of Arc on here. If I was making the map, I'd have a little sticker of Joan of Arc. But then we can move down into Barcelona, and here is this beautiful, beautiful Roman Catholic cathedral, and it is called the Sagrada Familia Church in Barcelona. It is just very beautiful. If you look at pictures of it, you can see just the magnificent artwork that is this church. And so that's in Barcelona. We also know in Spain is known for the running of the bulls that happen every year, but that's not in Barcelona. So here we have this church to mark as a famous landmark for Barcelona. And then when we go across the Mediterranean into Rome, Italy, this has a sticker that goes with it, and it is the Colosseum. So maybe you learned about this last year when we studied ancient history and we studied ancient Rome. The Colosseum was a big part of their culture. And so that's a landmark that you can remember goes with Rome, Italy. If you're ever, reading a book or watching a movie where they're at a Colosseum or you see that in the background, that's a clue. Where are they at? They're in Rome. So I hope these landmarks will help you to remember the cities you've learned this week. And there's a lot. Each of these cities has even more landmarks and famous, just wonderful history you can learn about. So I encourage you to look those things up. It's going to help you to be more knowledgeable of the world and to know your geography even better. What are some cycles in nature? Water cycle, carbon and oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle. These are some cycles in nature. All right, here is my coloring page that I did this week to go along with our science. We have natural cycles. We have the water cycle, the carbon and oxygen cycle, and the nitrogen cycle. So what are natural cycles? Well, when water and, very certain chemicals like oxygen, where's my oxygen? Oxygen, carbon and nitrogen, they're always being exchanged between the air and the water and the soil and the plants and animals and people. So these are just these chemicals and water that are being exchanged. These are different cycles that we're learning about. So first we have our water cycle over here. And you can see from our picture, we have rain coming down out of the sky. It even comes down, maybe runs off into a lake or a river or just a puddle, any body of water. So we have our water, and when the sun hits the water, it heats it up. And as it heats up the water that's in the river and maybe even on the ground, if there's water in the soil, it's going to cause that water to do something when it gets warm. Have you ever seen a pot of water boiling on the stove? you can see that there's steam coming out of the water, right? When it gets really hot. Well, just like that, on the ground, when you have water, it's going to move up. It's going to evaporate. And we don't see it as clearly. I mean, I think sometimes you can see water evaporating, but when you look at it like a pot of water boiling on the stove, you can see it really clearly. But it's happening even if we don't notice it. The water is being evaporated. And once it goes up, what happens to it? It becomes water vapor or gas. And so the water vapor condenses and forms into tiny little water droplets, and they make clouds. And those clouds fill up with those water droplets, and then it can come down. Sometimes it comes down in rain. Sometimes when that water vapor condenses, it actually is little ice particles or ice crystals. And what comes down when it's ice? It might have snow or other forms of precipitation. And so it comes down and it goes back to the earth. And then the sun warms it up and it gets condensed and it goes back into the cloud. So you can see how that cycle works. Okay, moving on to the carbon and oxygen cycle. So here we have a cow. We've got some grass. We've got a tree. All right, what's happening here? So the tree takes in carbon dioxide, and during that process of photosynthesis, when this producer is producing its food, it also releases oxygen. What happens to the oxygen? Who breathes oxygen? Animals and people. So then we take in that oxygen, we breathe it in, and then out we release carbon dioxide. And so here we have the carbon and oxygen cycle. We breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide. And where does that carbon dioxide go? The plants, producers use that carbon dioxide during photosynthesis to produce energy. It's their food. Okay. Next, we have the nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen is a really important part of proteins and other plant and animal matter. But they can't just use nitrogen directly from the air. It's not like with carbon dioxide where the plant just takes in the carbon dioxide. The nitrogen cycle is a little bit more involved. So we're going to look down here. Down here we've got grass. It says ammonia, nitrates, and there's a little glare. Nitrates. Okay. Ammonia, nitrates. And then we see it going up. We see it going up, way up here into the atmosphere and back down. So what's happening here? So the nitrogen cycle is really dependent upon bacteria that's in the soil that takes nitrogen from the atmosphere, and it's turned into ammonia, which plants convert into nutrients. So then when plants die or when animals eat them, the bacteria in the soil is changed into their organic nitrogen, which we've got ammonia, nitrates, and then those are in the soil and other plants can take them up. So we've got the nitrogen in the atmosphere can come down into the soil. The bacteria in the soil takes the nitrogen from the atmosphere, converts it into ammonia that the plants can use in the soil. They get eaten or they die and they go back into the ground, and then it can be released. And so important things to know about nitrogen. About 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen. That's a lot. But it's just in our atmosphere. It's really hard for plants and animals. They can't use it when it's just in the atmosphere like that. It's got to be broken down and changed down here in the soil before plants and animals can really make use of it. But it's really important. We couldn't survive without nitrogen. Nitrogen is used in fertilizer. It helps plants to grow faster. And nitrogen, it doesn't have a color, an odor, or a taste. So it's not really something that you're gonna notice. It's used in explosives, and about 3% of your body weight is made up of nitrogen. So I'm gonna put a link to a website called Ducksters, and it just has a really good explanation of all about the nitrogen cycle and lots of other things that you're learning about right now. So I will link that so that you can check it out. They've got a cool quiz that you can take and just lots of other information. So I will link that, and you can ask your parents if you can get on there and check it out.
9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81, and 90, 99, 108, 117, 126, 135. 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, and 72, 81 and 90, 99, 108, 117, 126, 135. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150.
This week for Latin, we have a new chart, our future tense. So you'll see up here, I have a bow and arrow. And our first Latin word this week is bow, or our first conjugation this week is bow. And so our bow is going to shoot the arrow into the future. So we have bow, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. So we'll sing through those together to practice our Latin. Bow, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. Bow, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. Bow, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt. First conjugation, future tense, future tense. Okay, so last week for English we had the nominative pronouns. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, that's what I said. Now this week we have objective pronouns. So we've got the same little beat where we're gonna pat, pat, clap, pat, pat, clap. What are the objective pronouns? Me, 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 me. What are the objective pronouns? Me, 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 me. Me, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. Me, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. So remember our nominative pronouns, I. In our objective pronouns, we go for me, 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 me. So that's how you can remember those. As nominative, we start with I. Objective, we start with me. For timeline, we're going to start with Judah falls to Babylon. The temple is destroyed. So J for Judah falls to Babylon. This has been our sign for Babylon. And then we've got our temple. It's founded upon the rock. Put a T on top of the rock, and it gets crumpled up and destroyed. Judah falls to Babylon. The temple destroyed. Babylon falls to Persia. And then Jews return and rebuild the temple. So feudalism is like this, where there's space between our hands. We're going to just put them right on top of each other like bricks that are being built up. So Jews rebuild the temple. Jews return and rebuild the temple. And then we have Roman Republic. So just two R's. Roman Republic. Golden Age of Greece. Touch your ear like you have a piece of gold in your ear. And then the Y for yellow. So Golden Age of Greece. Peloponnesian Wars. So we do a G, and we're just going to have it go right down our nose like our shield, our nose shield on our helmet. So we've got our G, Peloponnesian Wars. Persia falls to Alexander the Great. So let's go through those motions with our timeline song.
Judah falls to Babylon, temple destroyed. Babylon falls to Persia, Jews return and rebuild the temple. Roman Republic, golden age of Greece, Peloponnesian Wars. Persia falls to Alexander the Great.